Yo guys, thought dating a celebrity was a fairy tale? For Jane, it's a one-way ticket to 5-star hell with a sea view and full combo freak-off level hard mode. Sit tight, buckle up, and don't forget, what you're about to hear isn't drama. It's testimony that could bring down an empire. Okay, have you ever dated someone so powerful, rich, and famous that a single glance could silence the entire room? It's not a dream. You've just entered the world of Sean Diddy Combs, a living legend in the music industry, a powerhouse of entertainment, and now, the center of a federal lawsuit for serious allegations. Sex trafficking, coercion, and running a hotel night system sounds like the title of a romantic EP, but it's actually a series of psychological torture wrapped in the glittering lights of showbiz. Now imagine, you're his lover. Every night is a performance, every declaration of love is a velvet-wrapped knife. Every hotel night is a sex scene, and not just for two people. There are entertainers, a cute way they call male prostitution, drugs, videos, and the feeling that if you say no, you'll be left in the dark. No love, no home, no one to believe you. Sound like a movie script? This is the testimony of Jane. A real witness, a real ex, and the protagonist in a case that has left America speechless. Jane thought she was special. Who wouldn't be when Diddy said you were his one and only? First there were gifts, Paris, emotional phone calls. Then there were strange invitations like, see this hot guy? Then FaceTime, the nods of, because I want you to be happy. And hotel nights that didn't always take place in hotels. Sometimes it was the penthouse, sometimes it was the studio. But there was always one thing in common. A third man, a Diddy watching and a Jane trying not to cry. Jane said one night lasted 18 hours, and no, it wasn't because they were infatuated with each other. That was because Diddy didn't like condoms, because entertainers were booked, and because if Jane said no, she would be abandoned, unloved, and homeless. One time she cried in the bathroom in pain and exhaustion, and you know what the reaction was? A text message. Try harder next time. You can do it. No one would call interstate prostitution a freak-off in real life. But when federal prosecutors, lawyers, and FBI agents started piecing together flights, payments, and recordings, they stopped calling it love. They called it a federal crime. And that's just the beginning. So how did Jane and Diddy's love story begin? How did a strong, independent woman fall into such a vicious cycle? And why did she continue night after night with a broken heart and a broken body? When love is no longer a choice but a psychological contract, can you back out easily? For Jane, the answer is no. The second part of the Diddy files will open up a much darker chapter than the first. This is where love turns into a tool of manipulation, and true feelings are obscured by power, addiction, and control. According to her testimony in court, Jane did not just attend hotel nights to please Diddy, but because she was caught up in a psychological ecosystem where everything revolved around pleasing this powerful man. Diddy did not just provide money, housing, and gifts, he also provided love, but a kind of love defined by power. Jane once texted Diddy that she didn't want to play this role in your life anymore, and that I see this is the only reason you pay my rent. In her testimony, she described herself as someone who was forced into a role she didn't want, but couldn't escape. She loved Diddy, but didn't love what she had to do to keep it. The freak-offs not only lasted for hours, once as long as 3.5 days, but were also rife with uncontrollable episodes. Male prostitution, no condoms, drugs, positions that left her physically vulnerable. On one occasion, she had just wanted a private date, but Diddy brought an entertainer over and turned the night of love into a sex marathon. And then Jane cried in the bathroom after a sleepless night, both drugged and emotionally drained. When asked if those nights felt like work, she was clear it was work, from start to finish. Love had turned into duty, and duty became punishment. She endured infection, pain, and even permanent damage, all because she thought if she didn't, he wouldn't love her anymore. Jane was a victim not just of a crime, but of an emotional system warped by fame and power. The sequel will reveal how Diddy selected and ordered entertainers, with Jane's participation via Instagram, video calls, and in backroom deals that investigators say could constitute federal crimes. If you think Jane was just a passive victim, think again. In part 3, we see another side, her active involvement in contacting and inviting entertainers, often male gigolos, to attend Diddy's freakouts. But don't get me wrong, this wasn't consensual, it was a sort of self-imposed duty to hold on to the man she loved, even though he was putting her through hell. It all started with a character nicknamed Sly. Jane says both she and Diddy were attracted to Sly's looks and physical attributes, especially his size. They looked at photos on Instagram, and Jane initiated a message, "I'm a fan of yours." It escalated quickly. A heated FaceTime call where Jane asked Sly to take off his pants, which he happily did. She then booked him a flight from Atlanta to Los Angeles, rented him a room at the L'Ermitage Hotel, and paid him between $2,000 and $4,000. Diddy refunded Jane. Yes, this wasn't love anymore. This was logistics, management, organization. It was a series of interstate freak-offs that involved prostitution, videotaping, and drug use, all so thoroughly organized that prosecutors suspected it constituted human trafficking and federal prostitution. But let's get back to the emotional part. Jane didn't want it. She said she felt exhausted, in pain after each freak-off, her pelvic pain, her back pain, repeated urinary tract infections, but she did it anyway because she thought love was about sacrifice. She had to dress up, go out dancing, have sex with Sly while Diddy masturbated on the couch, and then Diddy would play around with it with her body. If you get goosebumps, that's why the FBI is investigating. They didn't stop with Sly. They invited other male escorts to luxury hotels like the Trump Hotel in New York City, the Waldorf Beverly Hills, and resorts in Turks and Caicos. And Jane handles most of the contact, booking, staging, and preparation. However, there is no freedom in that. On one occasion, Jane was too tired to continue the freak-off, so she refused to have the round 3 and said she couldn't do it anymore. The result, an argument with Diddy. She threw away the bracelet and said, "You only brought me here so I could have sex with you." And Diddy demanded that she apologize, not to him, but to Paul, who was in the freak-off. Part 3 doesn't just expose illegal behavior, it demonstrates a system of emotional control where sex is a weapon and loyalty is an invisible handcuff. After a series of hotel nights and suffering both physically and mentally, there came a point when Jane couldn't continue pretending. And that explosion took place in a seemingly heavenly setting, Turks and Caicos, a luxurious resort, blue sky, blue sea, and a nightmare waiting to explode in a luxury hotel room. Jane recounted the incident in a visibly shaken testimony. "I was wearing one of my usual servant outfits, but I couldn't take it anymore. She was so tired, so sore. Every movement was torture. But Diddy," she said, "kept lubricating everything and saying, 'I can take more.'" And then Jane exploded. She threw away the bracelet, a piece of jewelry Diddy had given her, and screamed, "You only brought me here to serve you sexually." Diddy didn't deny it. Instead, he was furious that she lost control in front of Paul, another man who was at the freak-off. "Why did you embarrass me like that in front of Paul?" Diddy said, and asked Jane to apologize. And she did. Jane sent a text message apologizing to Paul. Not because she felt she was wrong, but because she had bent so far that she had lost her standards of right and wrong. But it wasn't the first time she had broken. In the previous months, Jane had run away to Paris, hoping to escape everything. But Diddy still texted, called, sent sweet words. "I miss you. Let's have a wild night and go to the beach." Jane softens again. She turns around. And the cycle continues. They stop in Miami before going to Turks. There, they have dinner, watch porn, and call another man named Don. "The freak-off starts in Florida," she says. Turks and Caicos, it was supposed to be a reward. It turned out to be a punishment. It was the end without an end. It was the last time she thought she could save her love by suffering one more time. Part 4 marks the turning point. It's no longer Jane helpless. This is Jane standing up, breaking down, shouting, "Enough!" Although she didn't leave immediately, it was the first time she broke the mold of the love interest. And that's when the case began to take on its true form. A series of planned acts occurring across state lines with clear signs of criminal violations. This was no longer an abusive relationship. This was organized prostitution and human trafficking under the federal definition. And Jane, the silent victim, was now standing in court, starting to unmask an empire. If you thought the explosion was Turks and Caicos, you haven't seen the aftermath. After the hotel outbreak, Jane didn't disappear. On the contrary, she officially became the eye of the storm, of a legal storm that would hit the Diddy empire and the entire entertainment industry. Day 18 of the trial, a day like any other, but Jane's testimony left the entire courtroom breathless. In a crowded courtroom, the lights cold, the tape recorders whirring, she recounted every scene, every moan, every drug, every flight booked through Instagram by the entertainers. And every dollar that was exchanged, not for fun, but for work. It was work from start to finish, Jane said, tears not falling, but her voice cracking. From Diddy's sweet words like, "We're a team," to commands like, "You have to say hi to Paul." The change was no longer vague. This was a professional prostitution operation, with Jane as the logistics and the reluctant lead actress. And if you think this is just a two-person affair, consider who's involved. The FBI, federal prosecutors, a litany of witnesses, thousands of text messages, clips, statements. And what made it all explode? Federal charges of interstate sex trafficking. Jane tells the story of Sly, a male nightclub recruited via Instagram. The flight from Atlanta, the L'Hermitage hotel room, the hot three-way video call with Diddy, Jane, and Sly, everything is described in detail. And the climax, Diddy reimburses Jane after she prepaid Sly. The twist? Money back equals interstate sex trafficking equals federal crime. That's when the whole entertainment industry started shaking. The media started changing its tune. Major newspapers started moving the story from the entertainment pages to the front page. The hashtag number Diddy Files appeared, then exploded on TikTok. People who worked with Diddy started hinting. Some of Jane's former colleagues wrote suggestive statuses, and entertainment lawyers went on podcasts. If the allegations are proven, this is Harvey Weinstein 2025. And in the middle of that storm, Jane was no longer just a victim. She became the star witness in the most high-profile entertainment trafficking case of the decade. Why is this so serious? Interstate conduct. The hiring of people from other states to engage in paid sex, drug use, organized crime. All elements of a federal violation. Unlike the old scandal, this is no longer an abuse of power like the Me Too cases, it's a systemic pattern. Jane's medical records, infections, chronic pain, depression, all are presented as evidence of physical and mental harm. It's not just Jane, other victims are being contacted. Some may come forward, and if there are more witnesses, this case will move from criminal to organized crime. In this part 5, we don't just see a woman broken by love, but a woman who stands up, forcing the entire entertainment industry to look back. And the lawsuit, not just the individual versus the celeb, but the victim versus the system. You know what happens when a figure like Diddy is backed into a corner? Not a fiery counterattack, but silence. A cold, scary silence. Why? Because this time, Hollywood can't pretend to be blind. After Jane's testimony went viral, powerful figures from record label executives to entertainment moguls began to go silent. No more "we support you Sean" posts like in the Cassie case. No more "artists are also placations" people. Instead, a quiet morning dew-like withdrawal. Some major brands began unfollowing Diddy on social media. Advertisers pulled all of their products featuring him from their campaigns. A TV channel quietly rescheduled a series of shows featuring him. And that was just the surface. Underneath, a series of emergency meetings were taking place. People were calling it Phase 2, Diddy-level brand crisis. Internal documents were leaked. Some former employees of Revolt TV, the media company Diddy founded, began speaking out, describing nighttime meetings where male entertainers hung around the building despite having no role in production. A stylist who worked with Jane revealed she always has a big bag of pills not because she likes them, but because she needs them. then posted a story with a blurry image of an ecstasy box placed next to a plane ticket to Los Angeles. The more you dig, the more stinky stuff comes out. A popular podcast posted a recording of Diddy saying she knows what her role is. Just like that, the clip got more than 2 million views in 12 hours. The online community exploded. TikTok is divided into 3 factions. I used to love Diddy, but now there's nothing left to say. Jane is the queen who rose from hell. And the third faction recreate the entire timeline of hotel nights, using deepfakes to illustrate the freak-off like a Netflix documentary. The atmosphere is no longer scandal, it's a movement. Hollywood is cracked. Even more frightening, big names are starting to be revealed. A character named Paul was mentioned in Jane's testimony, rumored to be a famous director who worked with Diddy. A clip was unearthed. Paul sat behind Diddy at an all-night party in 2022. Another famous artist, mentioned anonymously, was said to have attended a hotel night as an observer. It took the internet less than 24 hours to find a suspect, a producer who worked with Diddy on 3 consecutive albums. FBI leak, they're expanding the investigation. After the 18th day of the trial, Jane did not appear again, but her impact never faded. Newspapers began calling her the real whistleblower. An online campaign called #JusticeForJane emerged, attracting tens of thousands of shares. The strange thing, Jane never called. No status, no crying videos, no posting old photos with sad captions. Her silence was the loudest bang. Women's and trafficking victims organizations began to make a case for the case. Some universities proposed teaching it in mass communication and law courses. And Diddy? His lawyers are silent, but the legal world is arguing. Some are calling it the second Epstein, with the scale of the artist and the money. Others say, without direct evidence, it's hard to convict. But clearly, in Hollywood, Diddy is finished. One night, paparazzi took a picture of him leaving his house, without bodyguards, without a luxury car, only a hat covering half his face. The caption of the photo, "The man who was once fearless now fears the camera." This is Hollywood, but not a script. This is real life. And if you think the drama is over, welcome to Part 7, the confrontation in court, where tears, money, and the truth can no longer be hidden. New York Federal Court, Monday morning. A long line of reporters, cameras, banners, and tense expressions stretched from the gate to the corner of the street. Everyone knew. Today was the last day Jane testified, and no one wanted to miss it. After the first 6 dramatic parts, what Jane shared in this final part is no longer a shock, but proof. When the details turn into hammer blows. In court, Jane continued to testify about the process of the hotel nights. From choosing the entertainer to completing the session. There were note takers, there was a schedule, there was an order. The prosecutor showed a photo taken on a phone in which there was a schedule with the names of the characters abbreviated. Diddy sat silently, wearing sunglasses in the courtroom. Some described his face as ashen. When the video was shown to the jury, not to the public, people only heard a soft yes from him. No objection, no denial. When asked why she continued the hotel nights despite the physical and mental pain, Jane simply replied, "I used to love him." It was a moment when the courtroom held its breath. For the first time since the beginning, she had shown how great her inner conflict was, between love, power, and abuse. "He used to call me his goddess. But what kind of goddess has to endure 3 UTIs just because she wasn't allowed to use a condom?" Jane said, not angry, but tired. Diddy's reaction? No reaction? During the testimony, Diddy did not say a word. His lawyer repeatedly objected, but most of them were dismissed because of appropriate questions, specific evidence. Another recording was played by the prosecutor, Diddy screaming, "You don't love me if you say no to freak off." A text message between Jane and a friend was read, "Every time I said no, he was silent all day. Then I texted him to apologize, like a drug addict struggling." The jury began to understand. Every detail, every or nod, every stiff expression on Diddy's part, all contributed to the undeniable picture. Some legal reporters described, "There is no question about the abuse of power and affection in this relationship." Jane's lawyer concluded, No one should have to choose between love and dignity. She chose both and lost both. Today, we want justice to choose for her. Outside the court, people flocked to watch via live stream. The hashtags number Justice for Jane and number Diddy trial immediately climbed to the top of the trending list. A series of true crime podcasts began analyzing every second of the testimony. Famous artists began to split. Some spoke up to defend Jane. Others chose to stay silent. Some former models, dancers, and stylists who worked with Diddy suddenly shared their unspeakable experiences. Record labels began to review their internal policies. Some TV shows temporarily stopped playing Diddy songs. Those who were once loyal fans now had to ask themselves, how long have I been idolizing the wrong person? A California law firm even launched a hotline for victims who worked in the entertainment industry and want to report abuse of power. What's left after 7 parts? A showbiz is shaking. A music legend is on the brink of being erased from history. And a woman, once just Diddy's rumored girlfriend, has become an icon for a generation that says, no one is too big to be held accountable. This is not just a lawsuit. This is a wake-up call. This is a warning, and also the beginning of a new purge in the entertainment industry. This is the end, but not of Jane. This is of silence. If you are interested in the next developments and similar incidents in the entertainment industry, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any drama.